Okay, so we're going to do for E-7 more derivatives involving sine and cosine. So let's review this little organizer here. So in this, here we put a sine, cosine, negative sine, negative cosine. So this is where we get all of our derivatives from that have to do with sine and cosine. And the way it works is it goes around like this. Because in the future, we're going to want to reverse derivatives. So we're going to do anti-derivatives, and then we'll just be going around the other way. And so it's important to know that the derivatives go around in this direction. Okay, now before we get going, guys, I just have to point something out. If you see something like this, sine squared of x, what we want to do is we want to take something that looks like this and always translate it into this form. Sine squared of x, what that means is sine x, the whole thing squared. They write it like this so that we don't confuse and think that it's sine of x squared, because this is not, this keeps not focusing. Sorry. Focus. All right, focus. This is not the same, as this. So I think they just write the 2 there so we don't confuse it. But anyway, so what this means is this. What this means, cosine to the 5th of x means cosine of x, the whole thing to the 5th. All right. So anytime, so there's just 2 examples. Whenever we have a cosine or sine function squared or any trig function raised to a power, we want to convert it to this form. Okay, so we're going to do some examples. So we want to take the derivative of cosine to the 5th of x. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to convert it to cosine of x to the 5th. So if you want to take the derivative of this, guys, here we're going to have to use chain rule, because inside of the parentheses, we have cosine of x. So that would be the inside function, the cosine of x. So in, out. So inside, we have cosine of x. Outside, we have blank to the 5th. What's the derivative of cosine? Negative sine. Negative sine of x. And then the derivative of blank to the 5th is 5 blank to the 4. And then cosine of x goes back in. All right, so for this first one, we have y prime is negative 5 sine of x. And then you could just say cosine of x to the 4th, or you could do cosine, or you could put the 4 like right there. That would be fine also. A lot of people would do that. All right, now this next one, okay, very similar. We have 6 sine to the 3rd of x. So the first thing that we have to do is convert this to 6 and then sine of x to the 3rd. And then you could see very clearly that this time the inside function is sine of x. So in, out. So sine of x, 6 blank to the 3rd. The derivative of sine is cosine. The derivative of this is 18 blank to the 2nd, and then sine of x goes back in. So this time we've got y prime is 18 cosine of x, sine of x to the 2nd. Okay, so the first 2 problems, we had the trig functions were the inside functions. This time it's going to be the opposite. So there's going to be another function inside the trig function. So remember, just like before, if inside of the cosine is more than just a regular old x, anything more than a regular old x, then you need to do an in and out chart in order to do chain rule. So, guys, what is inside of the cosine function? radical x. So the inside function is x to the 1/2. The outside function is -2 cosine of blank. The derivative of this is 1/2 x to the -1/2. And then for the outside derivative, you carry down the coefficient. And then the derivative of cosine is negative sine of blank. What goes back in the blank, what used to be in there, I'll convert it back to radical form, so radical x. Okay, so that goes back in there. And then I'll just gather everything together. So the 1/2 times the -2, that's just a negative. So negative x to the -1/2 sine of radical x. Okay, guys. I'm just trying to hit all these. So these are all examples from the practice. So I'm just trying to hit like an example of each type that you're going to encounter. All right, so now this one. Okay, so this is number 24 from the practice. These are all from the practice, and they're even numbers because I'm just going to ask you to do at least the odds. So this time, we have to take the derivative of a product of two functions. So this means you're going to have to use the product rule. So I need a bracket and a plus, and then two more. Prime on the first bracket, prime on the last bracket. Then I just put these things inside. 1 minus 4x cubed. Okay. Now to take the derivative of this one, we're gonna need chain rule because inside of these parentheses, the parentheses are being raised to the third, and then we've got another function like inside of the parentheses. So 1 minus 4x blank to the third. All right, so the derivative of the inside is -4. The derivative of the outside is 3 blank squared. 1 minus 4x goes back in. Okay, I'll come back to that later. Then this one, we're taking the derivative of this one. You look at the cosine. What is the input on the cosine? It's 3x squared. If it's anything more than just a regular old x, then you need chain rule. So 3x squared. What am I doing? Cosine blank. That looks bad. Okay, the derivative of 3x squared is 6x. The derivative of cosine is negative sine. And then we put 3x squared back in. Okay. So when I finally do my derivative, this comes down. Okay, so this is negative. Oh, no, that's fine. All right, so that's -12, 1 minus 4x to the second. And then cosine of 3x squared comes down. Okay, now this is a plus. Okay, you know what? Let me do it like this. All right, that's plus, and then 1 minus 4x to the third. And then this is coming down. This is -6x sine of 3x squared. Okay, another thing you could do, guys, I'll just leave it like this, but you could also write it. A lot of people would write it like this. They would write, actually, let me just say it. All right, or y prime equals -12. And they'd go -6x. Like that. Okay, it's just a little bit simplified, but you never have to simplify in AP calculus. When you go to college, they probably will expect you to do some simplifying, but on the AP test, you never will have to. express an answer simplified. Okay, guys, I will talk to you later.